Hello again, and welcome to preparation for Google Certified Educator Level 1. This is session 4, where we will be focusing on Google Sheets. Take a moment, please, and register at the URL you see on the screen, goo.gl /MH_F5 4 and lowercase d. Or you can scan the QR code and it'll take you right to the form. My name is Brett Petrillo. I am, in fact, a Google Certified Educator and Trainer. You can find me at Brett Petrillo on Twitter, or just head over to brettpetrillo.com and you have all of the information you need there. This is preparation to become a Google Certified Educator Level 1. This is, in fact, the first level of training. You have to take the Google Certified Educator Level 1 exam, which you can find at the website I'm going to provide you on the next slide. It costs $10, and when you pass it, you can use this fancy little badge they give you that is on your screen now. And you can take the exam or register for the exam with Google for Education Training Center, which can be found at edutrainingcenter.withgoogle.com. So just to be clear, I am not the one that is able to certify you. You have to go to the website, register for the exam. What my goal here is to prepare you the best I can to be able to pass the exam. Last week, we talked about Google Docs, and specifically with formatting and comments, email comments, sharing and tables and different columns. I learned how to put in footnotes in multiple styles and talked about the Explore feature. And we also created automatic table of contents, lots of features in Google Docs that we talked about last week. This week, session 4, we're going to talk about Google Sheets, specifically with formatting and different formulas that you can put in there, sorting your data, creating charts from your data, the unique feature, the unique formula, the Countif function, and Explore in Google Sheets. And all right, so let's get started. You can get to Google Sheets by going to the URL sheets.google.com, or you can also head there by going right from your Google Drive, which I'll show you in just a second. Let's get started. All right, as always, you have multiple ways of getting into a Google app. And like I just said, you can go to sheets.google.com, or you can go to this little waffle right there, click on it, and go right to Sheets. Or you can go up here where it says Apps, and if you have it uploaded to your Google Chrome browser, you can click on Sheets right there. Or as I like to do it always, I like to go from within my Drive. All right, so I would, once I'm in Drive, go to New, and then go down to Sheets. Now you notice that this gives you this More option arrow right there. I can go right to a blank spreadsheet from here, or I can go from a template. And because we're talking about formatting, let me show you some of these templates. If I click on that, it takes me to the same place that sheets.google.com will take me, or any of those other options. And you can see here that I have some general templates, and because this is a Google for Education account, it starts off with some education templates, and you can see that I have attendance or a grade book is one example. Now I'm just going to click on one to show you that they've actually done quite a good job in their templates making the spreadsheet not look so much like a spreadsheet. They've given it color, they've given it style. The formatting is quite good in these templates, and all you have to do is plug in the right information. So that is one template. That would be your grade book if you're using a grade book for teaching. Another template could be, let's take a look. Perhaps you want to take attendance, or they have an array of different templates that you can use for your own personal work, schedules, invoices, and the such. So all of these have the formatting already done. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that one up, and I'm going to open one up just blank. Now you see a blank spreadsheet has just opened. It is in fact untitled, and just like all Google Docs, you can head up to there, just click on it, and provide any title you wish. And just like that, you can just give it a title. Now you notice here too, I have cells, just like any other spreadsheet document that you might be using. If you're familiar with Excel, it's the same structure. Up here, you've got some more options underneath, and File. Now this is going to be pretty standard across all Google Docs. You can share, you can create a new, from there you can rename, you can make a copy. So these are all, you can download as. So this is actually quite important here. You can create your Google Sheet and download it in multiple different formats. You can download it into an Excel document, PDFs, web pages, that type of thing. So if you want to send it out to somebody in a different format, you can do that quite easily too. You can email your collaborators, you can print from here. You can edit, all the typical edit functionalities there, but down here, specific to sheets, you can delete values and rows. This will change depending on which rows you have or columns you have selected. You can view different options here like freeze. Now freeze is something that I use all the time, and it allows you to have certain rows or columns that don't move. So here you could freeze 2 rows or up to the current row or up to the current column, okay, so that they don't move. And I'll show you what that's like in a bit, but this freeze feature is quite good when it comes to some formatting. You can see the grid lines or not, so you can, now you see I just took them away. I like the grid lines personally. They don't print unless you want them to, unless you highlight them, and I'll show you how to do that. But I like to see them. You can see the formula bar or show formulas, that type of thing. Inserting is something that is quite good in Google Sheets and across all Google Docs. You can insert, and you can choose to insert a row or columns. That's pretty typical. But then down here, you can insert comments on a certain cell or a function in a certain cell, and we're going to talk about these a little bit later on. You can also insert charts, images, links, forms, drawings. All of this can get inserted right into your sheet. And I'm going to explore that a bit more deeply in a bit. Formatting, you have all of your typical formatting that you get with Google Docs. Data, you can, we're going to specifically get into filtering and looking at different ways to sort your data. We're going to do that. You can create a form right from here, and you can protect the sheet. And of course, there's always add-ons for every Google app. You can go to the web store and get some add-ons to increase that app's functionality. You can also see down here a lot of those options that I just pointed out. Some printing, undo, redo, painting, changing the format into currency or percentage, changing decimals. You get a whole lot more options with number formats here. So you can specify what type of data a cell is going to show you, and then here is your fonts and sizes, all of that, your fill color, and here are your borders if you want them to show up. alignment. Your vertical alignment within your cell. This one, your text wrapping. It gives you some options. If you start writing text in a cell, it will get cut off. It'll go over to the next cell. Or you can wrap it so that once it hits the border of the cell, it will go underneath. Or you can have it just clip it off right there. And you have some other options here with inserting links, inserting comments, inserting the chart, and filters and functions, and you get drop downs with each of those as well. I'm going to show you in this video some of the basics. Now, Google Sheets is very robust. There's so much that you can do. You could do a whole day's or weekend's workshop just on Google Sheets, and that's not the point of this tutorial. This point is to prepare you for the Google Certified Educator Level 1. So I'm just going to show you some of the basics and some of the things that I know are likely to be on the test. So let's get started manipulating some data and adding some formatting to a Google Sheet. All right, I've opened up here on the screen some data. You can see that this is some fictitious math data that outlines some students and the date that they took a test of 25 questions, then the score they got on that, and then a post-test after, and the score they got on that out of 25. Now, initially, you look at this spreadsheet, and it looks very underwhelming. It's pretty boring. It just seems like a lot of numbers and data on a page. This is where formatting comes in. Let me start here with the generic size of your columns. You see here, these are the columns A through I that I have with data in it. And they're all the same size, but they don't all have to be. So these, if you hover over the line in between, these are easily maneuverable just by clicking on them and dragging them from right to left or left to right. So then I can automatically make this a little bit more presentable, so that it's just not as spread out or as boring. So that's pretty easy to do. You can also choose, if you wish, see how these number 25s are all in the middle, but these numbers are off to the right-hand side. Well, if I select one cell, I can go up here to my alignment tool and just center that. Now, an easy way to do the entire column is to select one cell, you hit your shift key, and you just drag it down just like that. Or you can click on the cell and hold it down, and just move your cursor down, and that does the same thing. And then I can do the exact same thing by centering it. So you see my numbers are all in the center, except for that one that I missed. Okay? I can do the same over here, drag and center them all, just like that. I can also center an entire column by clicking on the letter at the top. So, for example, if I want everything in this H column to be centered, I could just click on the entire column and center it. That works for any type of formatting that you do. If you click on the entire column, it will format it even when there's not data in there. And the same thing works for the rows. You click on a row number and it will select the entire row, or if I just want to select the row, I can click and drag, or I can select a chunk of text by clicking and dragging. Just like that. So I click, hold it down, and drag to what you want to select. Another way to select your entire data set is up here in the top left corner. If you just click there, it selects the entire sheet. So if you want to make universal changes to everything, that's what you would select. Now take a look at my title here, math. That's pretty small. It doesn't even look like a title. So I can do some formatting really simple, maybe make it bold, maybe make it nice and big. Perhaps I want these two subtitles here to be a little bit bigger as well. I can also change the font if I wish. So it's all completely up to you. Maybe as well, I would like to add some color. Perhaps I want this entire top row to be a bit more colorful so that it stands out. So I would just highlight it as I have. I would go up to my fill color, and perhaps I'm going to choose maybe a light green. And you can see that it would automatically just highlights the entire row. Now perhaps I don't want pre-test and post-test to be just over the spot that they're over, like just over the date. Maybe I kind of want it centered here over this entire section of data. So one way to do this is to select the cells that you want to merge. And what merging does is it turns multiple cells into one. So again, you would just select the ones that you want, and you would go up here to format and then drag down, scroll down to merge all, or just merge horizontally, and either one would do the same thing in this case. So I would merge it. Now you can see that my 4 cells have become just one. Now I can center my word pretest, and you can see that now it hovers over top of all of the relevant data that had to do with the pretest. So I can do the same thing with my post-test. I can merge 4 cells into one cell and then center my text. Now you have it. So just a little bit of formatting already has made my data set here a little bit better or a little bit nicer to look at. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm looking at text like this, it's very hard to see what is on one line and what is on another line. Well, they at Google have put into their Google Sheets here an easy way to differentiate between the lines. And what they do is an automatic way to color or to shade alternating rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the entire data set here that I have, and I'll go up to Format and scroll down to Alternating Colors. Now, a lot of people don't realize this exists, but if you click on Alternating Colors, you get some options. And I want there to be different colors on different lines. And you see over here the example, but this one has a header attached. So you see how the header in these examples is a darker color. If I don't want a header, I would just unclick that, okay? I'm going to add a header there, and let's say I want to choose this color right there. I would just click on it, and then you see over on the left side, automatically it has given me alternating colors, which makes it super easy to see who's on which line. I also like when the students' names are a little bigger than the data. It makes it a lot easier to see, and it also spreads out the row size a little bit as well. So now you can see already I've got some data in here and some formatting that has made it super easy to see. Another pet peeve of mine, and you can see it happening right now, when I scroll down, I lose my title. I'm losing this line that says the student and the header for each column. I don't like that, because if I get down here, then maybe I'm not sure what the data is representing. Now this is what I was talking about earlier, that is how you can freeze rows and columns. If you go up here to View and you go to Freeze, you can freeze rows and columns. An easier way to do it, it's equally easy maybe, is you see this thick line right there that highlights blue when I hover over it. If I click it and drag it down a couple rows, just like there, to underneath my header, then you can see when I scroll, I do not lose my header. It doesn't disappear. It is frozen. It's stuck there. And similarly, when I scroll the other way, I don't like it when I lose the students' names, because if I'm at the end, I don't know which student is which. So I can freeze it. So there's another freeze bar. If I hover over it right there, you can see it goes blue. I'm going to click it and drag it to the right side of the students' names and let go. And now when I scroll, the students' names stay put. Up and down, you can see it's all a lot more functional. I can see at the end of the line here who belongs to which data set, and when I scroll up, I can see which name or which data belongs to which header. It makes it a lot easier, especially if you have a whole lot of data you're working with. All right, now that I've shown you a little bit about how to format your data here, I want to get into some of the functions, some of the functionality that we can use to analyze our data. And I want to start by providing you an example of how you can have your cells compute some basic math for you, just by typing in the data that you want, the basic math function that you want. So, for example, in this cell here, you can see that I want to develop a percentage. Okay, so I'm going to select this entire section here, and I want it to show a percentage. So I'm going to first format these cells to show percentage. And I'll do that by going up there and clicking on the Format as Percent. Okay. Now I can do some basic math right in this cell. And first I want to type in equals, the equal sign. And when I do that, you can see it shows it right off to the left side. Now I can just choose a cell. So for example, the correct answer here, the percentage correct, would be this cell 13, and I just click on that, and I'm going to do the backslash for divided, and that's going to be divided by this cell, which is 25. And there you have it. And if I hit enter, it'll show me that it is 52%. Now you notice that it gives me some decimals. Remember earlier how I said you could format your decimals. So perhaps I don't want decimals in there. And I'm just going to click up there where it says reduce or decrease the decimal places. So there you have it. It is all formatted properly. Now, I could, if I wanted to, do that function for each of these cells. Or I can just highlight the one that I've done, and see this little square box right there. If I just hover over it, you see it gives me little crosshairs. And if I click down when it's on the crosshairs, and I just drag down to the rest of my column, it'll automatically create the right formula, the one that you just put in there. It'll automatically duplicate it with the data that is beside it. And if you want to check that, for example, here I double click and it shows me D3 divided by C3. The one underneath, if I double click, it is C4 divided by D4. Sorry, D4 divided by C4. And you can see, you can check it and you go all the way down, but it has done it automatically. So to put in some basic math, you can just type in equals and then choose what you want to put into your equation. And let's do it again. So over here, you can see that it is again a percentage. So I'm going to select the entire data column there, and I'm going to format it into a percentage. All right. I also am going to do some basic math. So I will first type equals, and I want to choose the percent they got correct the second time around, which is G3 in this case, divided by, but it's the same number, so it'll be C3, and then I'm just going to hit return, and it'll give me the correct answer, basic math. And again, I can reduce the decimals places if I don't want them, and then I'll just drag that formula all the way down to the bottom, and it automatically does the math for me. Now, it doesn't just work for divided by, it works for all math, so I can just hit equals in this. Sorry, before I do that, I'm going to format this column to be a percentage as well. Highlight the column, go to percentage. Right, now I'm going to put in my basic equation. So this is the percent change, so it'll be equals, and it'll be H3, which is their final, and it will then be negative or minus the first percentage that they got, okay, and then hit return. So you can see that this student, Larry, actually improved 36%, and that would be quite good. And I'm just going to drag that all the way down for all the students. So I can see now the percentage growth or negative growth for each of those students. So your cells can perform basic math equations just by typing equals and selecting the cells that you want to be a part of the equation. Also, if you head up here to your toolbar, there's a bar that says functions. And if you drop down, I think I showed it earlier, but you can do some basic functions right from the toolbar here. So let's say that I wanted, for argument's sake, I'm not sure why, but I wanted to get a total amount of questions that were answered correctly. So perhaps I want it to show up in this cell right there. So what I would do, I want to sum all of this together. I could pull out a calculator and do it by hand, but that wouldn't be any fun. So I'm going to go up here to sum. And you notice that says equals sum, and it's put in some brackets for me. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. Click on one, and then drag it up to select all the data that I want. So you can see that this is D3 to D19, and I'm going to hit enter, and it automatically sums it for me. A different way I could do this too, if I delete that, notice that if I select this and just drag and highlight the entire column there, or the row, down here in the bottom right hand corner, it gives you some suggested equations or results. The first one, it says it automatically adds it all up, sums it up for you. But if I hit these arrows, it'll pop up. It'll tell me the average and the min and the max and the count and the the count numbers. So it's automatically doing this for you, even though you haven't specified it to do it for you at all. But it could be pretty handy. Now, if you wanted to get an average, you could also do the same thing right there. So if I wanted to get the average of what students got correct, it's the exact same thing as the sum. I would just choose average and select my cells, hit enter, and it tells me that my students scored an average of 16.82 questions correct during the pre-test. And I could also do the same thing in the post-test with an average. All right, and then just choose my cells and hit enter, and it tells me, there we go. So the average clearly got better. I could do the same thing with the percentage as well. Count just tells you how many pieces of data are in the cells that you chose. Max will tell you what is the max number, and then you have the option to do min as well. Now notice underneath min that it gives me some more functions, and if you click on that, it'll open up a new tab in your Chrome browser, and it will show you, it seems like an infinite amount of functions that are there for you to use. So this is what I mean about how Google Sheets is incredibly robust, and it can do so much with your data just in the form of these functions that you can find. And these functions, there's so many of them that you can search them right here and narrow them down by type of function that you want. So my go-to is if I'm looking for a function, I Google it, or if I'm looking for something to do, if I'm looking to do something with my data, but I'm not sure how, because it's impossible to remember all of these functions, you just get to this, tab here by clicking in the functions and then down at more functions, and it'll give you all those options to look at there. All right, now I thought this would be a good time to go back a section and talk about formatting one last time. Earlier on, I went up here to format, and I don't know if you noticed, but I have a conditional formatting option right there. And what conditional formatting allows you to do is format a cell based on certain criteria. And let me show you how that works right now. Now you can see after I've clicked on it, over here, the window pops up in the right-hand side and it says Conditional Format Rules. Well, I have all sorts of options to conditionally format a section of the data. So you can see here, I can apply it to a range, and I can, for example, here, let's select the entire range of percent change. And you can see that is I4 through I19. I can hit OK. So there you see that I have the whole section highlighted, and it's green because that's what my conditional formatting says. It says if it's not empty, format cells if the cell's not empty, to, and then the default is green. Well, I don't like that. So let's see what my options are. Lots of them. I can format it if it's not empty, or if it contains text, or if it starts with a word, or if it has a certain date, or if it's greater than. Lots of options. You also can put in a custom formula there. Now, I like to, in this case, let's say I'm going to leave the ones green that are greater than a certain number. So I would click greater than, and then I can put in the value. So let's say greater than 20%, and I want it to be green, and then I'm going to hit done. Now you see that it has formatted all the ones that are greater than 20% green, and I can add a new rule here as well. Let's say if the number is between, and then I'll put in the first formula. Let's say it's between 10% and 20%. And I want that to show up as yellow. And I'm going to choose my color right there, fill color, and I'm going to have that show up as yellow. And you can see that it's shown up as yellow between 10 and 20%. And one last rule, add new rule. I'm going to put in if it's less than and the value of 10%. And I'm going to make that red and hit done. And exit out of my conditional formatting. And now you can see that it will automatically, if you formatted the cells with certain rules, it'll automatically format the cell based on the rules that you have put in. All right, the next thing I want to show you here is about how to insert different charts. I glanced over it a little bit earlier, where I went to Insert and then down here to Chart. But first what I want to do is I'm going to select some data. Now, just for fun, I'm going to choose all of it. So the same thing, click down and drag and highlight all of your data there. Then I'm going to choose chart, insert chart. And I'm provided with a whole lot of options here. First, it'll give me some recommendations. And you can see the one that is highlighted will show up as a preview in the screen on the right side. All right, if I want to choose a different one, the preview obviously changes. So here, these 6 are recommendations. Now, the recommendations will change based on the type of data that you're putting into or wishing to put into a chart. You can also go over here to chart types. And you can see that it gives me some line charts as examples, the area charts. And again, if I click on one, it'll give me either information that says the data doesn't work for this chart, or it'll give me one that works. Now, with the data that I've chosen, you can see that they're all grayed out. Right? That means that I don't have the option of creating those charts. This other, I do. So if I go back to recommendations, those ones I can use depending or with the data that I've selected. It's because I've selected everything, and I'll show you how you don't have to do that in a second. But then I go over here to customization. And I can change my chart title. I can make it bigger, smaller, and I can change my legend on the right side, changing colors and fonts and backgrounds of the chart. All of that there, so you can really customize the way your chart looks. Now, once I'm all set and I'm ready to go, I can just insert the chart into my sheet. And it acts a lot like an image would, where you can just click and drag it around and insert it or let it drop anywhere you choose. I also have the option of changing the sizing with these, just like an image, with these little squares in the corner and on the bottom. Now, if you choose the corner and drag, it maintains the aspect ratio, both bigger and smaller. Now, you'll notice, if you're observant there, that not all of my students have been labeled down at the bottom right here. I only have some of them. That's because it's not quite big enough. And if I was to drag it out, you see that now there's room for all of those names there. All right, so you get quite a bit of choice and flexibility with your chart. And I think one of the coolest things, features of inserting a chart is if I change this data here, the data that is connected to the chart will automatically change. So without having to insert a new chart, I can manipulate my data, I can add data to it, and the chart will automatically represent the data that's there. So I think that's a pretty cool feature. And to delete it, you just click on it, hit delete, and there you go. Now, if you don't want the whole chart to show up, you notice that I select everything, and it gave me some options that weren't available to me. All I have to do is select what I want. So here, maybe I want the names, and I'm going to hit the Command key and choose some other options. I'm going to say maybe what they got correct the first time and what they got correct the second time. So I just highlighted all those rows and in those 3 columns, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Insert chart, and it will only look at the data that I've highlighted. So notice how my chart option is a little different, and you have some different recommendations here as well. Okay, so here is a line perhaps, or a bar. It all shows up there, and you can see once I insert it, I can manipulate it. I can change the title right from there as well. I can move it around as I see fit, make it bigger or smaller. And the data, if I change it in the chart, it automatically if I change it in the data, if I change any of this data that I've selected, the chart automatically reconfigures itself to illustrate the data that you've chosen. All right, I've changed data sets here to better illustrate my next topic, which is to sort. So you see here that I have students' names, genders, class level, a home state, the major, and the extracurricular activities that they enjoy. Now let's pretend that I want to see my students organized by class level. Right now it's all mixed up. I have it organized alphabetically by name, but I want this to be in a certain order. Well, I can sort my data. So the way you do that is you go up to data, and I'm going to sort by range. But you see here, this is kind of faded out because I don't have a range chosen. So I'm going to select all of my data here without a header. And once that's chosen, I can go back up to data, sort by range or sort range, and I'm going to choose column C because that is my class level that I want. And I want it to be sorted, for example, let's say A to Z or Z to A, it doesn't matter. And then I just hit sort. Now you can see that I have all of my freshmen, all of my sophomore, all of my juniors together, and all of my seniors together. Okay? And it rearranged the names and all the rows together at the same time. If I had sorted with only choosing one column, it would sort that data and leave alone the data in the rest of the columns. So you want to be very careful there that you're choosing all of it in that example so that you know all of the data is being sorted, but with the criteria being the column letter C. Let's try it again. Let's talk about column F. So I want to see in groups. I'm going to sort this by activity. So again, I would just go up to data. I'm going to click on sort range. I'm going to choose my column. Let's call it column F right there, and alphabetically A to Z, sort it. And I have baseball followed by debate, drama, lacrosse, and track and field. But you can see that the other data stayed with the proper person right there. All right, so that's how you sort. And now I'm going to show you a little bit about how to filter. Now, let's pretend that I only want to see the students that play lacrosse and are juniors. I could look at this, and especially if my data was pretty long, it would take me a while. I want to see lacrosse and I want to see juniors. Well, it's quite simple when you learn how to filter the data. So I want to filter by the activity and by the class level. But I'm just going to select all of my header row right there. And I'm going to go to data and all the way down to filter right there. And when I turn on filter, you'll notice that it gets this green hue all the way around, this green shading, even when I'm not selected. And you'll notice that next to my header titles, there is a little button that has actually turned into a drop down. So when I click on it, I get lots of options. I can sort it A to Z. I can filter it to show only what I want. So the first is all I wanted to see was lacrosse. So I'm going to uncheck all the other sports. I'm going to keep checked lacrosse, and I'm going to hit OK. And actually, baseball is still showing up for some reason. I'm going to uncheck baseball. And there we go. So I've got all of my lacrosse players, but remember I wanted to see only the juniors. So I'm going to go over here to class level, and I'm going to sort, and I only want to see the juniors. And I'm going to hit OK. And you can see that I only have one junior that plays lacrosse after school. So all of that filtering works with each of these headings that I put in. I could filter by name, gender, class level to give me easier access to the data that I want, especially if it is quite lengthy, what I have there. And notice too on the left, it doesn't delete any of the rows, it's just filtered. So I have row number 1 followed by 20, followed by 32, 33, 34. So it's just hiding the other rows. And if I want to go back to the way it was, I can go back to data and then turn the filter off. So there you have it, a little introduction to filtering in Google Sheets. The unique function is something that could possibly show up on the Certified Educator Level 1 exam, and it's quite handy. It is indeed a function, but it doesn't show up here automatically. But with every function, what you want to do, and let's say I want to start it here in this column, what unique does is show you how many unique individual pieces of data are in the selection that you chose. So the way you start it with every function, you start with equals. And if you type in unique, or even just start typing it, it'll give you the option. It kind of guesses what you're going to put there, and it does, in fact, it is unique. Then, just like all those other functions that I was talking about earlier, you just highlight the section that you want to choose. And then you can see in this case, it is F2 through F31. And when I hit enter, it will automatically list all of the unique data, pieces of data that were in that set that I chose. So you can see, according to this, I had 6 different extracurricular activities. All right, let me try it again right here. So I would just hit equals, I would type unique, and then choose the data set that I want. So how many different unique majors do I have? Well, I select the individual data set that I want, and I just hit enter. So in this data set here, I only have English, math, art, and physics. That is the unique function that could come in very handy. Countif is another great function that you might see on the test, and it also comes in very handy when analyzing your data. So you can see here that I've added another title there. This is the number of math majors. Now I could go through and go 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's a function that makes it quite a bit easier for you. And with all functions, you hit equals, and you're going to type Countif. Now it pops up for you, and it gives you, just like all your other functions, the parentheses, and you're going to select the data that you want all the way down there, and it automatically puts it in. But now I'm going to put the second condition, and in this case, it's math. So I'm going to put a comma, quotation marks, and then type in math, and then finish the parentheses. So my equation here should be equals Countif, and then in this example it is E2 through E31, comma, and then in quotation marks, math, because I want to know how many math majors I have. If I hit enter, it automatically counts that I have 8 math majors in there. So that's Countif. Let me do it one more time to find out the number of baseball players I have. So equals Countif, and then select my data set, hit a comma, and in quotation marks, now it's for baseball, so I'm going to type baseball, and end my quotation, finish my parentheses, and I would hit enter. That I have in that set 5 baseball players. So Countif can become very useful when you're looking to total how many you have of a certain thing. And last but most definitely not least, I want to show you the Explore feature here in Google Sheets. And you can find it down here in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, titled Explore. It's green, and if you click on it, you get a whole bunch of options. You can ask. This is a pretty cool feature, and it's pretty automatic. So you can ask specific things about your data. For example, you could type in, and it gives you some suggestions. The top 5 students name by number of baseball players, or distribution of class levels. Or it gives you some automatic editing choices. So I showed you this earlier, doing it on your own, but if you hit Explore, it'll automatically suggest something for you. And you see I just clicked on the blue option. It'll also give you some automatic analysis, and if I hover over it, it shows you which part of the data it is talking about. It gives you some automatic graphing, and in this case, it's telling me what percentage of the class is either freshman, senior, sophomore, or juniors. It'll give you some automatic choices for charts, and if you want to include something, you just drag it in, and I'll show you that. So here's my count of major, and I would just click and drag right into my data if I like it. Okay, and then I would just exit out of this Explore and treat it like I had just inserted a chart. And you can see that that Explore button is an easy way to add some analysis, some charts, and to figure out the answers to some of your questions. And that wraps up session number 4, focusing on Google Sheets. Next week, we're going to take a look at Google Forms, specifically with settings and formatting, and the fairly recent quizzing and auto-grading feature, also sharing, and how you can differentiate your questions. Thank you very much for watching the video. My name is Brett Petrillo. You can catch me at brettpetrillo.com or on Twitter at Brett Petrillo. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.